Oh, we just did the wave there. That's kind of cool.
Maybe practiced a lot or something.
It is. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Valiant TLDR, the ultimate deep dive into the history, creators, and behind-the-scenes stories of Valiant Comics. If you haven't heard Valiant Comics before, and this is your first time, welcome. Join myself, 90s Valiant fan, and Jason Richardson, a.k.a. Southern Comic Geek, who's been pretty much riding the Valiant wave since day one, and Newell Turner, a.k.a. Stingray, the man with the Spider-Man art. He has the fresh set of eyes on pretty much discovering the universe for the first time. So he will be your eyes if this is your first time. As we explore in-depth reviews, we're going to do some unboxing, sharings, and obviously always tune in for our creator interviews to explore the past, present, and future of the beloved Valiant universe. What's up, fellas?
Nothing. Just here to talk about Valiant.
Here we are. So, I mean, Jason, you could introduce this title today. I feel like
How is an Armorine?
Oh yeah, it's Armorine. It already says it on the title. So
well, yeah, but Jason, what is an Armorine?
Yeah.
Armorines are Marines that have armor.
That was easy.
I've always been interested in how the creatives come up with stuff. You know, Kevin Van Hook, at least at the time of us recording this last week, had mentioned, you know, where they came up with the name of Ninjak. Or if you think about the He-Man toys, how innovative some of the names were. But so the Armorines are Marines that the government decides to hire to put on these armor suits that mimic Exo. Because if you think Exo, you know, here's a guy from the past, he shows up, he's got the super powerful armor. Yep. So, hey, we need to have something that will be able to combat it. And so that's how they're introduced into the Valiant universe and fighting Exo. Later on, they become heroes, fight side by side with him, but we'll get to that later, I'm sure. That's Armorines.
I think it's interesting, too, how they kind of end up becoming not like nemesis necessarily, but they tangle with Hardcore a lot, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Hardcore and the Spider Aliens. It's a power struggle between all the various groups.
Yeah.
Now I have to ask, was Armorines and Hardcore kind of like they were inspired by kind of like these extra characters, but were they kind of like, if in your memory, Jason, kind of like Valiant's core teams that they were really trying to push during this time?
Well, they were additional teams that started, basically branch offs or anti-heroes as they became going against there. Because like with Armorines, they start out fighting the hero, and then they figure out, like, we're on the same side. We might not agree on everything, but we're on the same side. Similarly with Hardcore, you know, they start off fighting Harada and, you know, the Harbinger Renegades, but then they come to find out, like, hey, the enemy of our enemy is our friend type of a deal. So not necessarily all Harbingers are bad. Harada's still bad, but not all Harbingers are bad. So
yeah, so if you guys haven't tuned into our past episodes, go back to our streams actually, and definitely check out what we talked about with Hardcore and some of the other titles that Jason talked about. So what do you guys think? Are we ready to jump in?
Yeah.
Here we are. I love this cover, guys. I gotta say, this is to me one of the coolest covers ever. Yeah,
it's definitely a cool cover. And so originally, this was inside of Exo 25 as an add-in, but you can actually later on you can buy it separately. So, this is how they introduced it in the giant size, $3.50 for a giant size comic at the time.
Ooh.
You know?
That was like a 20 page newspaper print comic for like $5.99 now. It's changed so much.
Yeah, for sure.
To be fair, I do feel like I personally subscribe to the fact that I think comics are underpriced, but I think it also comes down to like the quality of material down the pipeline. Meaning, like, for the amount of time that people spend on making comics, I don't think the production level quality is living up to par. Meaning like the art's being spent hundreds of hours doing a issue of art, but you're putting it into like 10-cent paper, And so I'm a big advocate of raising prices on comics, but only if we're able to raise the quality. So let's dive into ARMORINES.
So you got the introduction of Gunnery Sergeant Lewis, who's the older guy with the white hair there. It's going to be a trope going through the book where he's the old guy in the group and everybody makes fun of him for being old, and he's like, "Oh, I'm an old man," he's kind of the gruff older guy. And then his other personality trait besides being old is that he smokes. They really want you to know that he likes cigarettes in this. So
that's a big no-no in comics today with like Marvel, DC. I heard is edited pretty heavily.
Yep. So I thought one of the things I thought going in this one and I thought was cool was we got Jim Calafiore on the art, and it was which is pretty solid, and he does all of the issues that we're going to look at today. So that was pretty nice to have that consistency. And here they are. They're just bringing the team in, introducing them to the scientists that are making the armor.
I also gotta say, I think this is some of Jim's best work. Personally speaking, like I think it's like the height where I think he really shines as to like. You could tell he put a lot of time and detail into it all. And, funny, I often forget to plug 24/7 Comics, but there's a really fun parallel where this guy, Dr. Philip Zhang, he's actually, we have a Dr. Lucas Zhang in Evermind by Sean Chen. So I thought that was kind of funny. Like we have this, two doctor guys that are at the basis of and I guess he's kind of like the researcher, right? He's kind of like the genius that comes up with these Armorine armors, right?
Yeah.
Well, and Gonzalo Mayo, inked a lot of Valiant comics, and so I think his finishing touches on Jim's pencils led to a really solid run of issues.
Yeah, how often the inker is like under recognized for sure. But I also thought they were so ahead of the game with this VR. I mean, 90s, right? Yeah.
Right. And so, we heard some of that when we talked about the 3D comics with Kevin. They put Solar the Destroyer inside the VR world, and they used that as part of the background for the 3D comics. And then ARMORINES is one, when they got relaunched, they're actually one of the titles in VH2 that they had a relaunch that basically stayed with the same premise, and then even created a game for it. But Jim Calafiore came back for the pencils on that one, and there was a lot of 3D type stuff in there. Actually, the fourth issue for that second run is one of the rarer books because the print run was so small at that time. But yeah, it's one of the harder ones to get.
We'll have to get to that. I mean, if you guys missed the Kevin Van Hook episode, go to our streams and definitely listen to that interview as he explains some of these VR worlds, etc.
That part was really cool. So yeah, just practicing, testing out the suits, getting used to all that, and then they find out that they're going to have co-pilots. They're going to have it's kind of interesting how each of the ARMORINES gets paired up with an individual co-pilot that kind of helps them out and guides them through missions and stuff.
And he meets his co-pilot in the smoking room.
Yeah, right. Out on the stairs.
Because that's where they put the smokers at, right?
They don't have a room; they're just on the stairwell,
Oh yeah, that's true. It's not a stairwell because back in the day, that's kind of where people smoked in the stairwell.
Anywhere they could.
Yeah.
Well, and the co-pilot thing is something similar to hardcore in that they have to kind of radio back to base to get the powers switched out, right? Which was a kind of an interesting take because sometimes, superheroes can be like so OP, like how can you even think to overpower them? But, this was kind of their kryptonite, if you will. That if they get that severed or showed that they weren't just invincible.
Right. Well, that was the cool thing about hardcore. Like they literally could have any power, but one at a time. And they had to call back home to have somebody change it out. Push the button. Give me what I need for this particular situation.
Right.
Yeah.
one of the notes I noticed too was the design of the Tron suit. I thought that was kind of cool. They took that kind of future inspired suit and that's their kind of undersuit, which I think is also very common these days. They have these like haptic suits where in VR you could actually feel like the bullets hitting you and stuff. It's a thing now, and so it's pretty cool how they were in essence kind of protecting the future.
Like the full body version of having your controller jiggle.
Exactly. then we cut to Washington D.C., which I guess is the antagonist that's setting everything up for them, right?
Yeah, some government types.
Yep. So they're called to their first mission, and then government types.
I think this is what a senator. I think I'm trying to remember, but I mean, yeah, basically this issue is all set up, and then
it jumps to this guy here.
Oh yeah, because they want to go after EXO. Oh yeah, and then it continues into EXO number 25. Yeah.
So we'll fly through this one real quick just to touch on.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure we covered this one before.
We covered this already.
Yeah.
So obviously we'll skip through all that. EXO kind of getting his armor back. The ARMORINE shows up, just blasts his car, and he's like, "Oh my god!" He's like,
"Right." He's basically the government says you guys should go after this EXO guy, and they're like, "Okay, yes, sir." And then they go fight him, and it doesn't go well for them.
It's interesting because EXO here, like, this is such a classic. This is such a classic look for him, right? Rising out of the ashes, right? And he's like, "I'm about to kick your ass."
Yep.
Well, and it's kind of predates Iron Man 3. But if you think about the scene where he's in the deal and the armor flies through there and it goes bing, 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 it does that same thing with the ARMORINES on that last page where it hits them as it's coming towards.
Yep. Now, was that always an Iron Man thing? I know they took it in the movies, but I am so convinced that all the Iron Man writers read EXO and stole from it. Because the way it moves, the way the armor moves, it didn't move like that in the comics.
There's definitely the later iterations of the armor was more like that.
Yeah.
But back in the day, and correct me if I'm wrong, but back in the day of this, Iron Man was still, hard, fast,
funky,
iron suit. It wasn't until later became more of a nano type thing.
I think around this time frame, he'd gotten to the point where he could carry it around in a suitcase.
Right.
Because didn't they do that even in the cartoon show, which would have been around the frame?
Yeah.
But so it was very modular, and he could just open up the suitcase and it would clamp onto him. But I don't think it was quite like what we're seeing here yet.
Yeah, it wasn't like the nanotech. How the armor.
Yeah, no, that didn't come until. Yeah, the nano stuff was the what was that story called? It was the one that Warren Ellis did with Adi Granov in the early 2000s, I think. Extremis.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, I also like during this fight where as EXO's kicking their butts, they kind of treat these armors like a jet, right? The guy could eject. So he's like eject, and then he's back here like flying away.
The look of them and that part that you just mentioned kind of made me think of, there was a cartoon show from the 80s, I think, where they did something like that. They had suits that kind of reminded, like guys with jetpacks and stuff. I can't think of which one it was, though.
You're not talking about Centurions, are you?
Might be.
Let's look.
Yeah, that's it. That's the one. Yep. Just not that anybody was copying or anything, but kind of a similar aesthetic,
Everyone's inspire each other. I mean, like when we talk about Iron Man 2, I think in the 90s at this moment, EXO was probably more popular than Iron Man. Can I argue that? Because I feel like everyone was talking about EXO.
Well,
I don't think Iron Man was an A-list character until he hit the Marvel movies.
Yeah, I mean, he was on the decline. I mean, because if you think about Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, the reason why they started with them was because nobody would buy the movie rights.
No one cared about them. Yeah,
and nobody cared about them. The X-Men, FF, they're all gone. Hulk, they're all gone. Nobody would buy these movie rights, and so that's why we started out with them.
In the middle 90s too, you got to think like what was most popular in Marvel? The X-Men.
Yep,
100%.
So 94 was that when they were doing Age of Apocalypse, I think, and that was huge.
Yeah, sure.
All right,
Yeah,
so
they
here,
were definitely leaning more into that than they were the Avengers at that point.
yes,
And
Right.
you know, and I think Bob mentioned this on the show that we did with him. And so if you haven't watched that one, go back and check that out.
Great show.
But yeah, so Bob mentioned that, hey, you know, we did this whole like heart trope back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and if you remember, they brought Tony from the future, so he was a younger version of himself, and the old one died. And then that was kind of how they kind of did away with having to go back to that trope all the time.
Yep.
that makes sense. I remember that.
That was in the 90s too, yeah.
I think it's funny. I actually thought this was kind of silly because he kind of kicks their ass, but then they have some weird like PBC beams in unison, and then they start taking, like, start hurting him in some weird way. But then it gets called off.
Right.
I thought that was kind of unrealistic. Not that there's a real thing.
I was gonna say that's the part that you thought was unrealistic.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I just thought it was like, dude, like the power level is so off because he literally just ripped all your butts, and all of a sudden you guys go unison, and then you guys all shoot this beam, and then EXO's getting his ass kicked. I mean, what were your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that it was like a concentrated effort by all three at one time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So versus like before, he's fighting one over here, they're doing this, they're doing that. So it's like all at one time, one giant blast was kind of what did it in for him.
So it's almost like poetic, like in teamwork, in unison, they could actually take on EXO. Okay,
yeah,
I get it. So so that's that, and then he goes and introduces himself to Eric. I don't know what they end up doing, but. Do you smoke? Mind if I smoke? He's like, actually, I do.
Well, so if you remember EXO Manowar #2, I actually have this page where him and this lady are talking. It's what's his friend's name? The gay one that's always with him. But he's with him at the house, and he
Ken.
Yeah. And so he reaches over and sniffs out, tears down the cigarette out of her mouth.
Oh, so that's hilarious. So he doesn't like cigarettes.
Thing. Yeah.
That's funny. So we'll jump right into ARMORINES. I mean, it's weird on Global Comics for some reason. It doesn't have the covers. So let me actually just look that real quick.
Well, yeah, go ahead.
Here we are. Oh, yeah. This was a great cover, too.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. This one's fun. So I'll be honest, coming into ARMORINES, I wasn't sure if I was going to enjoy this one that much just because, like, you look at this cover, like, oh, it's going to be more like a military thing, less superhero-y and whatever. It ended up being pretty fun, though, because as we'll see, it ties into some other storylines from the other Valiant books. So I thought that was fun. And then, like, this cover, that one for #2 that you just kind of skipped to, we'll see that. That story was pretty silly, but it was fun. So yeah, this one. Go ahead.
I'm really confused. Why did they cut off those first few pages on Global Comics? So strange.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Yeah, so this one is an underwater story, but Stingray didn't show up, so I was disappointed.
Damn it.
They could have used this.
Kind of reminds me of your commission with Simone de Mio, except
it's not quite. It needs more titanium.
Submarine.
Well, you notice the submarine is called the USS Benchley. You know what that's a reference to, right?
No, what was that?
Peter Benchley was the writer for Jaws, the novel.
Oh, cool.
Wow.
Great take. Nice.
Yeah.
Yep. And as we'll see, there's a lot of sharks in this story. So
the underwater story, and then this guy gets torn up. Oh, that's probably why they didn't have it. There's some violence. Yeah.
Carl, close the ad at the bottom.
Oh yeah, sorry about that.
That's okay.
Let's see. There we go.
There we go. All right.
Okay, now we're here.
Yeah, we got the beautiful dead half corpse there. You want to see the whole thing?
Yeah. Basically, I think that's why Global Comics didn't have it, because I think Global Comics does do some editorial, so that's probably why they took these pages out. Makes sense.
Well, boo.
Camp Pendleton, California, my side of the world.
Yep. Ooh. Yeah, so here they are doing some training with the VR and stuff. It's kind of cool because it's like their version of the Danger Room.
Yeah, it's really cool. I like it a lot.
And they're doing some fighting. They're testing out the underwater capabilities.
Oh, that's so cool. They kind of set it up by showing their training, and then they bring them into the field, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So wow, Global Comics cut out like 5-6 pages. Ridiculous.
Might have been just like a scanning mess up. I don't know.
Could be. So all right, we'll go back here. All right, so this continues. So there's two training.
And I think it's funny because you see that bottom panel there on the left, and then they've got that up on the screen on the next page. So they're all kind of like laughing at him because the way he kind of almost drowned and crashed through the wall and everything in his training. And then in that bottom panel, he's got a cigarette again. He's like, I need to smoke.
That's his jam. I mean, this is like a full-on advertisement for a tobacco company.
Yeah, and those are like his two major character traits, right? Like, I'm old, I like to smoke. So here they're just showing off that they're the scientist guy has designed for them like what do they call these? They're like special jetpacks to help them maneuver underwater. So they're getting ready for this mission. They're going to go try to save the submarine that we saw, the Benchley, which is off the coast of Australia. And then he's having a private talk with the general.
Is there some drama happening here between these?
Yeah, so the guy in the yellow and black stripes there, he's dressed like a bumblebee for some reason. That's Surratt. He's NSA, I think, so he's kind of working with them, and he's kind of a bit of an asshole, and the rest of the group, they don't really like him because they go to pick him up there. Like he gets to stay in a hotel, whereas everybody else is staying in the barracks and that kind of stuff, so they don't get along with him too well, but, you know, he's part of the team, so they have to put up with him. And then here they are. They're going into this guy's house. It's a guy that Lewis had known previously. He's an Australian Special Forces or Navy SEAL or something, and he really likes sharks. He's got all the shark teeth and the jaws, bones and stuff on the walls in his house, and he's going to help them out with this mission too. He's like the local talent that's coming in to help them go find the submarine.
Yeah, that's the aquamarine expert.
Yeah.
All right, so we dive in. We're in the mission now.
Yep.
I really like this whole gear that they add on. They look really cool. I thought.
Yeah, no, it's a good look, and it, you know, they're modular. So if they need something special for a mission, they can just plug and play. You know.
I guess one question mark I had was more like they said the armor would like camouflage to whatever world they're in, but they're not very camouflage right now. It's very gold still. Like you would think they have the, you know, blue aquamarine camouflage or something.
Right. So, you know, it's funny too, because like you notice in that top panel on the left there, like they have some of them have writing on the helmets.
Oh yeah.
Which I imagine they did to help kind of differentiate them because the armor's all basically the same.
Right.
True.
Like they have the numbers on the shoulders, but I wasn't sure who was what numbers. And, you know, I even got a little bit confused sometimes trying to remember who was, if you can read this, you're dead. Like I couldn't remember which character that was, but I thought it was a cool attempt to try to make them different, you know?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's cool. It gives some personality, and it's very Marine core, right? They decorate their helmets and stuff.
Yep. Hoorah.
Boom.
And then you get the sharks. Everybody likes sharks.
Oh, shark movies are the best. They always make money.
They're not just regular sharks. I got excited because with this page here, I thought they were going to be zombie sharks.
They look like zombie sharks. Look at this. Like they're all like.
It's not quite zombies. It's even weirder. So.
All right. So with that said, we're gonna go to issue 2.
Yeah. That's a cool cover, though. I like that cover.
Oh, really good cover. This is very. If there is one Armorine cover, I think this is yours.
If it shows.
Very Stingray. You should get someone to recreate this. Maybe California can do a recreation of instead of
that's a good idea,
Armorine, do a Stingray. And it's like a Stingray logo of the Armorine font. That would be freaking awesome.
That could be cool. I'll make a note of that. Armorines 2 cover recreation.
Great idea for California to because he's a great commissioner. He does really good work.
Oh, really?
They skipped a few pages again. So all right, we'll continue here.
Yeah. So there's the co-pilots hanging out doing VR stuff.
I wonder why they need to be on like on helicopters. I guess back then the Wi-Fi just didn't go as far as satellite
There was no Wi-Fi then.
Oh yeah, no Wi-Fi in '90s.
I mean, Al Gore had just invented the internet. I mean,
That's true.
I have a great joke for this. I'm glad you brought that up, Jason. Do you know how you know that Al Gore created the internet?
How's
It's
that?
made up of all those algorithms.
Oh my god, that's really good. That's really good.
One of my favorites.
I love that.
So yeah, sharks. Lots of sharks.
Shark City. Look at this.
Like that top panel where he's got the blade out on his arm. Like that looks really dynamic and cool. Like I don't know, fighting a bunch of zombie-looking sharks. This issue got a little bit kind of a little crazy, but it was still fun. It was entertaining. So,
all right, so it's not quite ready for us yet. Okay, so it goes back through here. So Global Comics takes us to here. It really kicks off here.
Yeah,
boom. Here we are. So shark fighting. This guy gets
blasting holes in that one at the bottom there. Like it's such a
boom.
It's funny too because there's a lot of like technical talk where they're like, oh, our beams won't be as effective because they got to go through the water and all that stuff. But it was enough to really mess that shark up. So.
And what's happening here? The sharks are eating each other now because
that one is all dead and bloody, and all the other sharks are going for it.
Ooh. Brutal.
So the big thing here was the sub that they're trying to get to was a nuclear sub, and that's the core. And so they want to destroy the sub. They're ordered to destroy the sub because it has government secrets and classified stuff, and they don't want people to get a hold of it. But they can't blow it up when it has a nuclear core in it. So they have to eject the core and then blow it up. So there's the core, and then they're going to try and get that out. The other thing is, you see in that top left panel how it's on like an angle. Yep. They got to be careful what they're doing because there's a possibility they could knock it off of that cliff and it could just fall deeper. Wow. So, but now they're inside and they're getting attacked by the hammerhead shark, and he like grabs the one guy in his mouth. And
I mean, these are giant sharks. Like the hammerhead's insane. Look at this.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think the size changes because here is huge, and then over here it's like shrunk.
Well, it's perspective too.
Yeah, I guess perspective. Yeah, you never know.
And then what is that? What is that thing?
Must be a spider aliens on the water. Is it?
Yep.
I think so. Yes, it is.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow!
We don't quite get there yet, but
they have a little base. So I jumped ahead. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, you're good. They get the core out, so then they can go and set the bombs. And then here we see that they called for backup, so the government sends in dolphins. It's Dolphin Rescue Squad.
That is pretty funny. These do exist, right? From what I hear, like they have like dolphins that help.
I don't know if that's still a thing, but I think at one time that was actually a real thing.
Yeah, they tried.
There's some more brutal shark killing.
Lots of brutal shark killing.
There they are setting up the charges to blow up the submarine.
Yeah, this will not pass the PETA.
Right, look at that one
today.
And I really like the way the colors blend in that too. The reds of the blood, the green and the yellows of the laser beams and stuff. Like it looks really cool. I think they did a really good job with that. Once again, the Valiant hand coloring kind of saves the day.
Are these color guides around, Jason? At this point, was it still in tune with the whole like hand color side of things?
Yeah, they were.
Was right. Okay. All right. Boom, boom, boom. So wait,
and there they blow it up.
They blew it up, and then where is he? Oh, he's in that ship.
Yeah, that's Surratt. He got picked up by the weird yellow ship that you guessed correctly. It was a spider alien ship.
Yep. All right, so we gotta go back to 3 here to read the first few pages.
Yeah, that's really weird that they did that, but
yeah. But it's a great book. Like even as we're looking at it visually, and as we're talking through it, it's really fun, man. It kind of reminds me of like a Band of Brothers or like one of the army or one of the like war type.
Right. Well, and that's what I was saying. Like I'm not a big fan of like soldier stories like that, so that's why I wasn't sure if I was going to enjoy this book. But then things got weird really quick, and that made it more fun, And then
this is a fun cover too. Look at this.
Yeah, and this one is cool because it introduces the spider aliens into the story, and we're very familiar with them at this point. So,
and this guy got the legendary pictures logo on his helmet.
I
Why
was
is
trying to figure out why I recognized that. Yeah, you're right. That's funny.
Why does he have that? It's trademarked.
Yeah, so here's a spider alien ship, and they end up meeting up in a bigger base where a bunch of the spider aliens are hanging out underwater. They keep referring to humans as meat. That's a common theme, because that's what the Malevs were calling them.
Right.
And maybe he's dead. So
yeah. So you see him laying there. It's funny. His brilliant plan. He took off his armor and went and laid on top of a pile of bodies and played dead.
That's funny.
And so they found the armor. They're like, "Oh, it's empty. We just picked up some trash," and then they just left. He outwitted them.
In the meantime, everyone's wondering, like, what's going on? Broken some of my ribs.
Well, they're all recovering. They're like, "Oh, we blew up the sub. We did the thing," and then they realize that this is when they get the report that one dude is still missing. And so they're like, well, crap, we got to go back and get him. And there he is smoking again.
Yeah.
Oh, so this is going to bring us into, okay, so we're back here. He's smoking again, of course. Any moment possible, he'll pull a cigarette.
He's having a Nick fit.
Yep.
So then they're talking to the co-pilots. They are like tracking the dude's suit. So they dive back in. They're going to go try and save him.
I love this design of the co-pilot.
You know, it reminds me of like some sci-fi movies I've seen, like the idea where they're facing each other and everything. I can't think of any one in particular, but it reminds me of a couple of different things kind of vaguely, you know.
When we have Jim on, we should definitely ask him on some of these references, where they came from. I'm going to put that in as like episode notes.
Yeah.
So now they're diving in, going back to look for him.
So and they're tracking the suit back into that ship there, and then that's the home of all these spider aliens underwater. They're all hiding out.
So what's up with these spider aliens with the webbings? Are they evolved into kind of underwater spider aliens? Is that what it is?
Yeah, they genetically mess with them to be able to adapt to their surroundings. So like some of them look like humans.
Right.
That's essentially kind of the same thing they did with these here. Which is interesting in this whole little ARMORINES little storyline is that it's all underwater. So if you think about Valiant, they don't have any underwater superheroes.
Oh, actually, wasn't that a question that came up? And then I guess this is it.
They don't really have that aquatic side of things like most.
Yep, they don't have the Valiant Stingray. Missed opportunity. Yeah, more fighting. I love the tanks with the sharks there on the right. I thought that was cool.
Oh, cool. They did a good job. Look at that.
And everything. And then this is where you find out that all of those ugly sharks were not zombies. They were mutated. That the spider aliens are messing with the sharks' genetics and stuff. And they're using the sharks to, like, if the shark goes and eats somebody and brings it back, the spider aliens take it out of the shark and eat it.
What a great idea.
Yeah, apparently the sharks have very slow digestion. I don't know if that's a real biological thing, but so, by the time the sharks come back home, they can get the meat out of the sharks' bellies and eat it themselves, I guess, which is kind of gross, but I guess you got to do what you got to do.
I wonder how much world building. I wonder if the projection of this world building was there from the onset, because I know Bob Lane, Barry Windsor-Smith, Jim Shue, they all kind of designed this world, but for them to think about where all the places that the spider aliens can live, from space, land, sea, I thought that was really cool, just to show that they've pretty much invested our complete infestation of our planet, and they've already kind of been here for long enough where they've already evolved into webbed versions of themselves. I thought that's pretty genius. And I always wonder how much Barry Windsor-Smith had to do with the alien aspect, because he has shared that he was actually one time abducted and saw aliens and witnessed that, and that's why it informs a lot of his creativity. So I wonder.
Barry was abducted by aliens.
Yes, he was. I believe him. I
did. Well, I had not heard that before. I didn't know.
Yeah. So I wonder if that informed a lot of this. You know,
I will have to Google that later.
Yeah. Oh, I love these fight scenes. So well done.
Which part?
The fight scenes, like how he's just cutting heads off right here. Wow.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. More of that Valiant violence that we love. Right? No comic code here.
Yeah, Jim Calfore, when I got him to do a Spider Aliens commission, I said, you know, the one with the spaghetti heads and stuff. He goes, "Oh, yeah, I remember." I remember how ridiculous the design on them was, is what he told me. Nice. And he said, but like as soon as I just started it, it was like muscle memory. You know, I just started drawing, and it just came natural.
That's awesome.
So what's happening? They pretty much destroy their base, right?
Yep.
Completely take them out.
Yep.
Boom. And then what's happening here? This goes and it like thing.
Yeah, I'm not sure. That part was weird, but he basically decided he's the one that blows up the ship. Somehow vomiting blood into a hole on a control panel makes the ship blow up. I don't know. I didn't quite follow that.
I guess like a DNA thing. It's like if the
maybe.
Yeah. Makes sense. Wait, but the blow up is the Carl Denham? Is that the boat itself above that gets blown up?
Well, no. That was the ship that they ran underwater. That's the one that the ARMORINES went into. You see them leaving through the way they came in up on the
yeah, they're swimming out. Okay. So it's not on top of the water. Got it. Okay. I misread that. All right, so we're diving into ARMORINES number 4.
Gotta get a cigarette, yeah.
Smoke break.
Dude, this guy's like a full-on commercial for cigarettes for sure.
Now I'm gonna be the one to make the movie reference here for you, Carl, because I know you're gonna like, oh, this is so ahead of the time. So they're doing like a combat sim, right? And you can see they've got the auras on them, so they've got like shields, right?
Yeah. Oh, dude.
Yes. Yeah. This reminded me of Dune. Specifically the most recent version.
Oh, very much so.
Which I really liked the way they did the shields in the new Dune movie. So
I'm telling you, Dune stole from Valiant.
Dune came out in the 50s, bro.
Well, the latest movie stole from Valiant.
Okay. Well, I doubt it, but okay.
Visually, look at this. Visually, it's just like it's like, whoa.
It was way better in the movie.
And then the movie also had like levels, right? Like if it hits too hard, then it becomes red, right?
Something
and then
like that,
otherwise, yeah. Well, I think how they do it here too, right?
Yeah, sure. It's totally what they stole from.
Totally stolen from ARMORINES.
How many do you really think that many people have actually heard of ARMORINES?
John Spade, who wrote Dune, did. He obviously read from this.
The way you said that was like, you know that? Like, is that true?
We'll have to ask him.
Yeah.
So we're back now.
Yeah, this is some senator dude telling them that the general to get the old smoking guy off the team. They don't like him, and they think that they could have somebody that's younger and better and faster, and And the general's like, oh, but he's kind of keeping the team together, and he trained them all, and they're a team, and they're a unit, and hoorah, and more drama.
Well, drama begins, and what's interesting is the they didn't get away from the spider aliens; they bring them right back.
Right. Well, what's cool here is you notice like there's one in Chernobyl, there's one in New York, and then if you keep going,
they're floating up to New York. Oh, yeah. And there's one in Egypt,
Mount St. Helens, Cairo, Jersey. Yeah. So in the previous issue, they talked about it briefly that the spider aliens were planning a big gathering. And so this is kind of like the hints that they're starting that. And then back to the base, the Marines are having some downtime. They're in the officers' club, hanging out, having some drinks.
Yeah, they were really like working on doing their version of the war movies. So the usual life of a Marine, very full metal jacket.
Oh yeah, so this is funny. Like he gets home, Lewis gets home, and his daughter is there waiting for him, and he had forgotten that she was coming to visit.
Oh, here, okay.
Yeah, yeah, this page, yeah. He's like, oh crap, and it's like you don't even know he has a daughter at this point. She's just kind of there, trying to create some, more personal drama, I guess. And then he gets he has a beeper, he has a pager, right? Very, very 90s. So his beeper goes off, and she's like, "Oh, you got to go now. You just got home, and you got to go." He's like, "This is an emergency. I have to go." And she's all like, "Oh, so your job's more important than me? Nothing's more important to me than you, but I still got to go." So, that kind of thing.
So I love this because it goes really back to Valiant and how they grounded their characters. Because I don't remember as much of this type of personal, work and life conflict in like the Marvels and DCs of the world. I feel like this feels very real. It's like often there was in the 90s, there's the boomers, right? The generation that put work over family. And I thought just this one page adds so much more, I guess, dynamic to his character, right? Adds another layer. The Marriott Hotel, several miles away. More advertisements. So what's going on here? Who's this guy?
Just one of the other Marines hanging out with his wife,
okay.
and then the beeper goes off, and he has to go as they're getting ready to have some fun times.
I know. There's so much of this kind of stuff in Valiant. These guys were having a blast, I'm sure.
Well, and that outfit looks just like Dr. Mirage's wife's outfit.
Oh.
And, I mean, it's the same color, same design, everything. So
they love purple tights.
Right.
So, well, you think about all that shenanigans going on and who was reading those comics at that time. They're like, hey, yeah.
Yep.
Yep. So then the Lewis shows up at base. The general's like, "Oh, we need to talk," and he thinks he's about to get fired. But then they tell him that there's the alien invasion, and they're going to have some help from Hardcore.
Nice. And Hardcore, I forgot. Are they government related at all, or are they their own independent agency?
No, they're owned by not Orb, the other one, some corporation.
So they're private.
Yeah, they're a private deal. And VEI, they're actually part of Project Rising Sun.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the chaos effect that's happening now was Valiant's next big crossover across all the books, and there was different versions of the chaos effect. Like this is Delta. So like there was like 4 books in this version of it, 4 books in this other part of it. So
kind of like phases or something.
Yeah, it was phases, and so like you'll see more of like a grouping of sorts, and then they have like a alpha and omega type thing, like they did with Unity.
Oh, interesting. So Jason, before we dive into this, could you give a quick premise of Chaos Effect and the role that ARMORINES played into it?
So with Chaos Effect, basically the Master Dark has this plan, and the necromantic energy sets everything afry. I think that's when Geoff, the Geomancer, dies, and so it brings Magnus back from the future at one point in it, and then of course because of the dark energy, Dr. Mirage and Shadow Man play a big part in that, right? And so that is the next big thing. So yeah, so they had the Dan Jurgens did the red cover, and he might have done this one too.
Huh.
And so so you'll see the
free as well. Okay.
The only bad thing about these covers, is that it's very slim. So like if you look at the originals on this, it's that one slim piece of art. All the rest is computer stuff, right? And so that's the only bad thing about these covers. I'm
not a fan of these covers. I know what they're trying to do, set a theme for it, but I think you take away so much from the art,
Yeah. But
they really could have just done some graphic designs instead.
Yeah, sometimes they'll shrink down, or you only get part of the cover, but the actual cover, the actual art is only that thin.
Yeah, it sucks. I wasn't a fan of these covers. I think I was kind of like, this is when I remember Valiant started losing me because I didn't like the covers. I didn't like how they chopped up the covers this way. So it's weird. It's a weird thing, but I totally remember. All right, back to ARMORINES. Here we go.
That's so funny because like this is the only issue of Chaos Effect that I've read. I didn't realize it was like a Unity level kind of thing. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's gonna continue Harbinger 34. So
yeah,
I guess things
they go into outer space and then they get trapped out in outer space as a result of the effects of it.
But yeah, so it's them and Hardcore on a space shuttle going out into space to fight spider aliens.
Exo ends up getting trapped out there too, so he ends up being.
Yeah, that was funny because he just shows up randomly later in this book. So.
It's really funny. I always remember this. These were very memorable, like these pods in space. But I totally forgot that they came from underwater. Like in my kind of nostalgia memory, I didn't remember that they were introduced through ARMORINES. So it's pretty fun. This spread is awesome. Who owns this spread? Someone needs to grab this spread. This is freaking badass.
So I own several pages from these stories with them and Exo.
Yeah.
But I don't own that one. That would be a nice one.
And then an interesting little thing here. That's Harada in that tube on the right there.
Whoa, what's he doing there?
He's mind controlling one of the Hardcore guys that's in space right now.
The heck?
Yeah, I was a little confused by that part, like why, but if you keep going, that guy just kind of goes off and does his own thing, the one in the chair there. And his name is Flatline. And everybody's like, what, Flatline? What are you doing? Get back here. And where the hell are you going? And it's because Harada is controlling him from some, stasis tube thing.
Like, Weapon X.
X, a little bit. Or like the thing they put Luke in, when he's got to rebuild his hand.
Right. The Bacta tank. Yeah.
Bantha tank. Yeah. Bantha something.
Yeah, this is pretty cool. They're straight fighting in space. Then, boom, this guy shows up.
Yep.
Curse hard skins, you will die like all the rest of your kind. Ha ha ha. All right, so they close out, and we're left on like a cliffhanger. Continue XO33, but we won't go there.
Nah.
We'll dive into issue number 6. Oh wow, nice cover.
So this is after this is over with Chaos Effect, so you don't see the brander up there.
Is it me? It shifted a little bit art wise. Is it the colors? Is that what happened?
No, I think it's more the inker.
Yeah,
the inker. Okay,
the same inker. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Ronnie Ramos really.
But I think.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think Jorge Gonzalez has written all these issues so far, and they're all penciled by Jim Calafiore. So very consistent. First few issues, which is kind of interesting because like some of the other Valiant books, like they swap every couple issues. It feels like,
Yeah. I mean, this ink and color, for me, it's a little bit of a shock.
Well, yeah, it's a little bit different. It's funny because it's noticeable without being like, why does this feel different?
Yeah, that is funny because especially like in the 90s where the coloring was just like horrid at times. Like I don't remember looking at a Marvel book and like being able to notice like or even think about the coloring side of it.
Sure.
It's just all yeah. But
I mean, it's funny because I never really thought about it at the time either because I was still pretty young and I didn't know any better.
Yeah, it's funny. It's one of those things where I feel like when we're younger, we think we don't know, but I think our unconscious does know because I think when the quality starts going away, you start.
Oh, sure, but it's not like something where I could look at it and go like, "Oh, this coloring sucks." You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I don't think I really. At that point, I probably didn't have a good understanding of all the work that went into it and how comics were made yet.
Right.
Like I never would have been able to look at this stuff and understand that it was hand colored versus the digital stuff.
So I'm guessing this was moving away from hand color at this point because it does look different.
Yeah, it does. I
don't know if that's the scan or what.
Yeah, it could be the scan as well. I mean, so there's the aftermath of Chaos Effect.
Yeah.
what are they doing? They're just murdering the rest of the spider aliens?
Omen. Omen is the company that runs Hardcore. That's it.
Omen.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Yeah, no, they're just still out in space fighting the spider aliens, trying to stop the gathering, because all of the spider aliens, I think they're trying to they're all getting together so that they can leave, right, Jason? Like they're trying to get away from Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're just trying to stop them, and the ARMORINES and Hardcore are just trying to survive. And Exo is out there just murdering aliens because that's what he does.
Yeah.
And of course, they're like
the originals are about the same, so I don't think it was necessarily the scan. It's just the or unless it was like the original from the printer type deal. So,
I mean, timing wise, Chaos Effect was also like the beginning and the end, right? Of VH1.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, you had Birthquake was the next big crossover thing. But yeah, it was starting to go downhill at this point. I mean, when did the crash happen for comics? Was that 95, 96?
96, I think. I remember. Yeah.
You like around the time Marvel went bankrupt?
Right.
I think that was 96. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, this was 94.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was already kind of fading out.
Yeah, so they open a door there and they get faced by these three big guys.
The beast spider aliens.
Yep.
Okay. So issue 7. This is the last one for ARMORINES for us, right?
Yes, this is the last one I read. Yeah.
So this is basically EXO, ARMORINES continue. Now they're up against these giant spiders.
Yeah, that page is for sale. That you and I bought some stuff from that website.
Oh, yeah.
Wait, which one? The left one?
That's the first page, the one that says sacrifices.
Oh,
in there. This is a wraparound cover.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
that's a cool page.
Yeah, it is.
It's a cool page.
He wouldn't come off. They only want $1,000 for it, but I mean, I try to get a little bit of a discount. They wouldn't give it to me.
It's a lot for what it is. It's a lot. I would say it's like half of that. But
yeah, I mean, I'd be good if they gave me about 20% off. But
yeah, so they're in battle mode. They're fighting it out.
Yep.
And you can read this. You're dead. Not quite, because they're much bigger than him. They're going through it.
Yeah, this issue is just a lot of fighting.
Yeah, lots of action, which is fun. It's kind of like you've seen them get tested, and now they're in battle mode.
Yep. So that's a Spider Queen there.
Ooh.
And then you see there's like egg sacs on the one side, and then they've got the wall of human batteries, almost like the Levs again.
Matrix.
I don't think they're using them for batteries, so they're just keeping them as food for later. And then this guy here is a Marine, and then you find out that in the next couple pages that he was kidnapped by the spider aliens, like back around the time of the Vietnam War.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Because time doesn't flow for them like it does for us. That's why art was able to be from way back when and come into.
Right. Time is not absolute.
Right. And then there they are breaking a bunch of spider eggs, and then you cut back to them fighting the big guys. And then,
where is Exo at this point? I thought he was still with them.
He's in stasis there, you see. The spiders caught him.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now it gets interesting because you can kind of see it a little bit on this bottom left, the big panel there, but they free a bunch of other people that were imprisoned by the spiders, and they are all from all throughout history for going backwards like several hundred years. So like
cool.
there are literal like knights in armor and that kind of stuff. So like we get a whole variety of people, and they all just kind of, they don't even necessarily all speak the same language, but they're all mad about being kidnapped by spider aliens. So they all just start to fight back and kill spider aliens.
That's so fun. What a great concept.
So they break out Exo. Like in the bottom right there, you see the knight getting shot. He's in the knight armor.
Where this guy?
Yeah.
So interesting.
You've got Vietnam War era Marines, you've got knights, you've got all kinds of like just random historical people. They managed to all get on the space shuttle.
Yep. And I'll take
and
off.
they load up all the historical prisoners, and then they get out, and then the spider ship blows up.
Woo! That's fun. He takes off.
And then they left. There was one person they couldn't get off the ship who blew up with it. So he feels real bad, and then that was the end.
So, Newell, how would you rate this? We should kind of enter a Newell rating system from a new eyeball.
That now. How long have we been?
No, never too late. We're starting that now.
I'm not making a spreadsheet for that. I don't know. I'd give it a good 7 to 8 out of 10. That was good. I enjoyed it. Yeah, I liked the mutant sharks. I thought that was fun. I was pleasantly surprised when the Spider Marine showed up. I enjoyed it even more when Exo showed up, and he was just like, kill the Spider Marine aliens.
Yeah, so like 8 out of 10 stingrays. So like you have like little stingrays there.
No, you know what? We could do the sunbursts like on his chest.
Yeah, we should. We should do 8 out of 10 stingrays. There we go. Done. All right, that's good to know from a new perspective. And for me, nostalgia-wise, I gotta admit, it was probably more like a 6. But after kind of reviewing it, I do feel like it's the 7, 8. It's cool.
I will say too, like whenever I read these, I'm like, yeah, that was fun. But then talking about it with you guys always makes it better. So
yeah, it does. I mean, it's reviewing it. It kind of brings up like modern relevancy. I mean, Jason, you got some show and tell works from this era, right? So would you like
it's
to?
It's on my calf. If you want to pull.
Cool. Oh, should we do that? Okay, why don't we do that? Why don't we pull up calf?
But no, yeah, for me, having reread them after, the fact, much like I did with Hardcore, was I enjoyed them more later on, reading them as an adult than I did as a kid. And I don't think it was tainted so much with nostalgia, because like as a kid, it just seems like I was like, I just don't know if this is for me type of a deal. And your tastes change over time.
Oh, yeah.
True.
So I did enjoy the series more later on. So
yeah, I agree. It's more interesting as an adult for sure. So we got 2 California pieces here.
Yeah, so you remember the scene where he gets trapped in the danger room and he has to cut his way out.
Oh, nice.
That's a really nice page.
Man, you need a bigger scan on there, man.
Well, I think that what it was, these were like the first ones that I put in.
Okay.
And so then I became like a premium member. And so it didn't go back and check because I didn't do anything as far as scanning change.
I got you.
I've gone back and manually changed some of the ones I've caught. I'll just have to do this one too.
No, I'm the same way. I have some older ones that I need to go back and redo it. But
yeah. I do too, and some of the ones I upload from the app is small as well. Yeah, actually, it doesn't blow up. Too. Yeah. All right, next one.
You guys join that new V2.0 update to the app?
Yeah.
I haven't tested it yet because I keep getting signed off, so I haven't been looking at the app. So
I'll have to let me know when you're ready. I'll go comment on something so you can get the notification.
Okay.
Yeah, and the mail's in there too, so that's nice.
Yeah.
The Volume 2 issue 2. Okay.
Volume 2 is this which
VH2? Yeah.
2, yeah. Okay.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, you see that everything carried on. All these giant spider aliens dropping out of the teleporting door.
I'm glad that they kept the spaghetti design of the spider aliens.
Yeah. So VEI, they do look different. They don't have the spaghetti faces anymore.
They look like a bunch of Mavericks from X-Men, or like right? Kind of like the Maverick mask.
Oh yeah, I guess you could say that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. Like I like the updated design. You can tell it's definitely a little bit, more streamlined. Yeah. But then, like when you look at the published page here, like the coloring is very obviously all digital. Like
totally.
That really just jumps out at you. I mean, it's not bad. It's definitely not what we're used to with the early Valiant stuff.
So it's funny because when Acclaim relaunched everything, basically they reset the button. I mean, like Turok, we'll find out later on. It's a totally different person. Exo, same thing. Shadow Man has a totally different deal. But when it came to ARMORINES, it basically stayed the same. And they launched the game, so I guess they felt like they had done good enough job with ARMORINES not to have this like convoluted or long backstory that they needed to reset, like the other characters did.
Yeah.
I think it's hard to improve on Armorines. I felt like they did a really good job. Actually, now that reading as an adult, it was pretty tight as a story. It's really just platoon,
Right.
holding the jacket with an element of this like technology and magic.
Right. Well, that's the thing is I don't think that the characters really mattered as much in that. You just had these, it could be anybody. It's just like, okay, here's a group of Marines in armor, right? You can pick and choose and give them whatever backstory they need, but the concept is still solid, right?
Yeah.
All right. So I think with that said, that's our review of Armorines. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you at the next episode.